So, you decided to buy Valheim. You installed it, and this is your first time playing it. Let me be perfectly frank. This game will not hold your hand or tell you what to do. Well, except for the hints and tips you will get from a couple of ravens that you will meet along your journey through this Viking-inspired survival game. The rest you will have to figure out on your own. This will of course give you a whole lot of freedom to play the game however you want, but it can also be pretty frustrating early on when you don't yet know what to expect. Hi! For those of you who don't know me, I am Splash. I am not an expert, but I have put a whole bunch of hours into this game, and this is how I start a new playthrough in Valheim. The first thing to do is of course to talk to Hugin. After a while, you will not need these hints anymore, and when that time comes, you just turn the ravens off in your game settings. There is information to be found on all these megaliths. And here you can read a bit about the different bosses you can find throughout the world. With every new biome comes a plethora of new mobs, food items, building materials, sometimes even skill sets. And when you feel like you're ready to move on, you summon the boss of the biome, defeat them, and bring the trophies back here to this stone circle. You can find the boss location with the help of these Vägvisor signs. Here we know that Eikthyr, the first boss we need to summon, is close by, so let's go there first. Oh, and if you're playing with friends, make yourself visible on the map while you're at it. On the way there, we try to pick up everything we can. If you can interact with it, it is going to be useful one way or another. As soon as you have enough stone and wood, let's craft our first set of tools. The hammer is only for building, but you need this even for the smallest of things, like a campfire. This is a survival game, and if you get cold or tired, you will run out of stamina faster, so rest and warmth is really important. The stone axe is needed for taking down trees, but it is also a very versatile weapon. When I play this game, however, I usually skip the stone axe. Collect all the branches you can see, you'll gather more than you'll need anyway. And the axe isn't necessary yet. Also, since we tend to spawn close to water in this game, flint is one of the first resources you will find. There are lots of it along every shoreline in the meadows. If you follow the coast and pick up wood and flint as you explore the map, you will soon enough have gathered all the materials you need to make the stronger and better flint axe instead. The club is usually my go-to weapon early game. It gives you skills in blunt weapons, which will be very important for a couple of the early biomes you will wander through. Alright, we found the summoning stones. To summon the boss, we will need a sacrifice though. For a hint, you read the sign. It looks like we will have to hunt deer. A boss fight would suggest though that we need to prepare a bit too. For example, we might need some better equipment. To craft that, we need a workbench. This is where you use your build hammer. For the workbench, we just need some wood, then we're good to go. And the second we have the workbench up, we will get all these new recipes for build blocks. You will also need a workbench for building things. Place it down and you'll see how much space you have for building. We will need to build ourselves a small hut around the workbench though to be able to craft any of the next tier tools. So let's make ourselves a small outpost now. Here, we can build ourselves a bed. This will give us a spawn point where we wake up if we die. Since night raids can be pretty rough, it is nice to be able to sleep every once in a while too. To be able to sleep in the bed, however, you need a campfire close by. If it starts to rain or if the wind gets too strong, the fire will burn out, so you have to make sure that the fire is sheltered. The smoke needs to be able to get out somewhere too, otherwise both you and your fire will have trouble breathing. And now we can interact with the workbench. Look at all these new things we can craft. Here's the flint axe, let's make that. While we're at it, let's make a spear too, they are very useful. And now there isn't much else to do for us but hunting and foraging. Gather everything you can find and bring it back to your little outpost. Make sure to always have 3 different kinds of food in your belly and to get a good rest every once in a while. If you hear a buzzing sound, see if you can find the source of the sound. Bees! Don't attack them head on, just bring out the hammer, make a workbench, and break everything that the hive is hanging on to. Now we have a great farmable food source that will be useful throughout the entire game. When you reach the Black Forest, you will get a warning. This is the next biome you will venture through, and the enemies are tougher here. If you still want to explore, be careful. Also, fell one of these trees for core wood and stick along the coast. With a bit of luck, you can find stranded ships, which will give you some fine wood. I usually explore the entire spawn island at this point, marking things that I find on the map. Like this, I can see if there is a point to build a larger base here, or if I should build a boat instead and sail away. In my opinion, this island is pretty good. I have all kinds of things that I will need really close by. Copper, crypts, food. From the looks of it, I can build myself a really nice base over here. For now, I'm staying in my little outpost by spawn though. While we're here, let's make a bow and some arrows. We could have crafted the crude bow earlier, but in my opinion, that is not worth the material cost. Instead, use the core wood and the fine wood that you found and make yourself a fine wood bow. Let's upgrade our workbench to get the next tier recipes. And while we're at it, build the beehive so that we have an infinite source of honey. Repair all your tools with this hammer and let's see what we can make out of the new weapons. Ooh, looks like we have everything for a shield too. Here you can see the difference between the crude bow and the fine wood bow. And keep in mind that even though the crude bow is cheaper to make, it is horrible to aim with. So, it's time to upgrade our gear. Oops, free food delivery. Raids in your base will get tougher and tougher, so keep that in mind before any of your boss fights. Without the right protection, your builds can be destroyed and you might find yourself without a spawn point. Anyway, back to upgrading our equipment. It will take some of your materials, sometimes it might even feel overly expensive, but in the end it's always worth it. Give your weapons a couple of extra levels, it will make them more durable and more effective. You can only make your tools as strong as the level of your workbench allows though, and sometimes it's better to upgrade what you already have rather than switching to the next tier, depending on your playstyle of course. There is no reason to upgrade your rag tunic or make yourself a matching pair of pants though, because that's just wasteful. Shields, on the other hand, are never a waste of materials. This early on, I'd even say they're necessary. You can craft them in a couple of different styles, and it is a good idea to keep them upgraded. Overall, the tower shield is stronger, but if you want to make use of the stagger effect you get from a perfect parry, make the smaller round shield. Oh, and with our new bow, we would like some arrows too, would we not? Sure, wood arrows will take you far this early in the game, but if you hunt for birds, you get feathers, with which you can make even better arrows. You probably have a lot of resin already, and with that you can make fire arrows. We don't need armor for the first boss as long as we have a shield and some good food. Make sure to grill the meat over the fire, then bring 3 kinds of food with you to the boss fight. Different foods have different effects, and you can choose between stamina food and health food at this stage. I usually bring deer meat, honey and blueberries, because the berries and the honey will give me the ability to move around quicker without running out of stamina too fast. We have equipment, we have food, time to get some rest before we summon our first boss. Bring at least 2 deer trophies, depending on how many times you would like to fight Eikthyr. Put the trophies in one of your tool slots and summon the boss. Right-click on the arrows you wish to use and you're good to go. With a shield you can block some of the damage even from Eikthyr's power attacks, and when you run out of stamina or need to regain some health, you back away, or maybe use your bow and arrow instead. There is no need to try to stagger any of the bosses with a perfectly timed block like you can do with the other mobs. Just keep the shield up. And there we go. We got this really nice trophy and a piece of antler. The trophy is our sacrifice that we need to hang at the stone circle, and with the antler we can craft ourselves our very first pickaxe. Welcome to the Bronze Age. Make the sacrifice and activate your new power. Now we have reached that stage when we need to go into the Black Forest. Before we do that though, create the pickaxe and let's make yet another weapon. With the remaining deer trophies that we collected earlier, we are creating the Stag Breaker and upgrading it. If you have enough deer hides, it's time to make that leather armor. I usually don't, so I keep going like this for a little while longer. Instead, I bring a whole lot of arrows and start hunting down trolls at this stage. But why would you hunt down trolls? You want the troll hide. With the troll hide, you make the troll leather armor, which is really useful this early on in the game. First though, it's time to move into the crypts that we found in the Black Forest. Bring stone and wood for a campfire. In most cases, there are closed doors here, which makes it safe for you to explore the crypt in a slow and steady pace. But sometimes you find a tunnel without a door in it, and you never really know what's lurking down there in the darkness. Place a campfire in the doorway to both keep you safe from intruders and give you a nice rested buff whenever you need to sit down. We are here for these glowing cubes, Surtling cores. We will need a whole bunch of them to build ourselves a smithy. They will also be very useful for fast travel in the future, so gather as many as you can. When you have enough to make yourself a charcoal kiln and a furnace, it's time to take down a whole bunch of trees. To work the furnace, you need lots and lots of coal, so it's better to let the kiln do its work while you are out mining. We marked copper on our map before, so let's pick one of the nodes that are close to us. Most of the copper ore is hidden underground, so to make sure you get all of it, mine around the find, then dig out a big hole in it and place a workbench and a campfire under the node. This serves as a roof, and you will be able to both get a good rested buff and to be able to repair your tools as you work. If you've done a good job and made sure the node isn't touching anything anywhere, you can make this a quick and easy job. Pile up the stones for later use, mark them on your map and haul all the copper back to your outpost. There we go, a whole bunch of new recipes. You need 6 copper bars, some stones, some wood and coal to build yourself a forge. Like the workbench, it needs to be built under a roof for you to be able to interact with it. Now, we will need to get some tin to be able to make bronze, and this can be found along the shorelines in the Black Forest. Tin looks like this, and you will need a lot of it. Gather as much as you can carry and smelt it in your furnace. To make bronze, you need to bring both tin and copper to the forge and craft it. By now, you also have the recipe for a cauldron. It has to be crafted over a fire to work, and here you'll find new recipes for foods that will give you more stamina and health than just the berries and meat. This is also when you can start brewing potions, or as they are called here, meads. Start by placing the mead kettle over a fire. Just like the cauldron, it needs to be placed really on top of the fire. And now we can make a meat base. Next step is to create a fermenter. It needs to be close to a fire, and you'll need some fine wood to make it. Drop your meat base in the fermenter, then wait for a couple of days. Oh, would you look at that? You will also have the recipe for a cultivator, which you need to start farming. By now, if you have picked up everything you can interact with wherever you have gone, you should have found some carrot seeds. It's time to plant them. Start by preparing the ground. You can't sow carrots in uncultivated soil. It'll take a couple of days before they're ready for harvest. Save at least a third of your first harvest to replant for seeds. See what foods you can cook with the rest. Carrot soup. This is really good stamina food. With bronze, you can finally make an axe that is strong enough to take down birch trees and oaks too. So now you will be able to build yourself a boat worth the name, the Carve. Sure, you've been able to make a raft all along, but the Carve is easier to steer and it's so much swifter. By now, it is also time to catch ourselves 2 boars. You can of course do this earlier, but they need a lot of food. If you're solely living off of foraging, breeding boars will deplete your coffers way too fast, and I want a farmable option before I even start breeding them. Many creatures in this world can be found with or without stars above them. 2 stars is the highest level. This means 2 things. They are tougher to fight and they drop more resources. This means that the boar you want to tame should have at least 1 star. It's not really worth your time otherwise. Build yourself 2 pens with an opening in one end, like this. Then we go out into the world and find ourselves a boar, or 2 if we're lucky. Aggro them and make them follow you, and as soon as they've run into your pen, close it and drop some food in there. Now the waiting game begins. You have to be close by for them to be tamed, but as soon as they see you, they will be afraid. So, hide in a hut close by or spend this time fixing things around the base. Like farming, for example. You always need farming. By now you might need a larger base too than this silly little outpost. And you might also have enough materials to upgrade your workstations. You will get new recipes with every upgrade, so make sure your workstations are up to date at all times. I am lazy, but I love building, so I tend to build my real first base in the Black Forest, close to a Grey Wolf spawner. Why? Well, these beauties can be turned into farms. With this, I have infinite supplies of stone, wood, resin and Great Wolf eyes, all things useful throughout the game, especially if you build things everywhere. With that, you're good to go. Thanks for stopping by and hope your adventures in Valheim will be great and many.